The final part of Python regular expressions in simple English looks at substituting the text found in regular expressions, called re.sub. In this video we'll look at substitution, deletion, the flags that we use R and I, and also a simple task that's not that simple. Have a look at trying to replace dates, and at the end of the video we have a challenge for you. In the previous video we looked at re.findall, and here the lowercase vowels are extracted from the text into our output, which is a list of each of those vowels found. Now in substitution, re.sub is quite similar, except for these. In this example, the lowercase letters are changed to an uppercase X. So the output is the text with the changes. The lowercase letters have been changed to an uppercase X. You can see that in the output. We changed our findall code so the pattern was outside in a variable, and then we used that in the findall statement. And we can do the same with re.sub. So here we've got the pattern, which is the lowercase letters, and then we've got new pat, which is the replacement. The substitution is the text that's going to be replaced is called pattern, and the text that's going to replace that pattern is called new pat. R.sub statement, we've got pattern and new pat from the text. So that has the same effect, but we can see the regular expressions outside the statement. What can we use this for? Well, here's a few examples. Here we've got house, and we've got the pattern SE, and we change that to SES. So our output is now houses. So that's quite a simple example. Another example is a common spelling mistake. So here we've got it is cold in their house, but there is spelled incorrectly. It should be EI, not IE. So to change it to the correct spelling, we can change it in the text using re.sub. So in the output it says it is cold in their house, THEIR. So that's the correct spelling. So here's another example. We've got quite a lot of text here, but don't worry about that too much. We've got the word society, and society is another word misspelt quite often with the E and the I the wrong way around. It should be IE. So here we have the pattern, which is the incorrect spelling, and then the new pattern is the correct spelling, and we change that using re.sub. Now if we look at our text again, I've highlighted society in red, which was correctly changed. But societies, the plural, was not changed. You can see that underlined. So what do we do in these circumstances? Well, we could use uppercase S and lowercase s and use the line for or, and we can change that. And if we look at our resulting text, you see that it's worked, but societies has now got a lowercase s, which is not really what we want. Now something we might think about using is a flag. There are a few flags, but not really used that much. Flag R we've seen before, and this one is flag I. There are a few ways to use it. In this example we've got flags equals re.I, meaning the flag I should be used, and that ignores case, so that can be quite handy when you're looking through text. In this example it doesn't really make a lot of difference. Societies is still got the lowercase s. So what would we do in this case? It's a bit of a cheating way really, but we can just not put the s in our pattern or the new pattern. So it just finds the part of society that we want to look for without changing the bits that we don't want to change. So there we look at the text and we've got society and societies correctly spelt because we've substituted the correct spelling. Some other examples in text processing, you might want to change these versions in English. So you've got I'm not in today, it's a holiday. Those are called contractions. So I'm is short for I am, and it's is short for it is. So if you wanted to change them, you could put the pattern it's and change that to a new pattern it is. So you can see the output, I'm not in today, it is a holiday. And then we can change I'm to I am, so we have I am not in today, it is a holiday. There are other uses as well. So if you're interested in how to delete things, you can use re.sub. And then we can look at something like how you might want to change dates to a set format, for example. And remember, we still got the challenge. So how do you delete something? Well, you do exactly the same thing, but instead of changing the pattern to a new pattern, the single quotes here you are in the re.sub mean nothing there. There's no space there, no character there. So we're changing the pattern to nothing. So in this example, we've got not and then a gap. So I'm in today, it's a holiday, changes to I'm in today, it's a holiday. The not has just been deleted. It's been changed to nothing. We've got this load of text here we've taken from this website, from YouTube, and that's fine if you want the text to look like that and it's spaced out, that's fine. But if you want it all together, you can just use this re.sub expression here where we've got /s plus, meaning get all of these spaces continuously together and change them just from one space. And what that does, it puts all the text together so there's no spaces except for just a single space. So that's very handy, taking out unwanted spaces. Here's another example, text we had in the first video with emails on 6 lines. We want to delete the punctuation, so we can use re.sub, and this can be a bit confusing. We've got a lot of escape characters here. We've got the slash, the slash underscore, the slash at, the slash beginning bracket, slash end bracket, dash, and escape character dot. So all of those characters, those punctuations, will be removed using this expression. So if we have a look at the text is the same but without those punctuations. So we can use a flag again. We said before we used the R, we're going to introduce it here again. R means raw string, so we don't use the escape character. So here we've got the same characters inside the square brackets but without the escape character because we're using the R. So if we have a look at this, that works. There's one slight thing that you might notice there is the slash is still in there. So what we can do is we can write another re.sub expression just to take out the backslash by itself with the escape character. So it's not necessarily straightforward, but with regular expressions sometimes there's a bit of trial and error to see what works. And you can see by the output the text has got no punctuation. Okay, so let's have a look at a challenge for us about changing dates. Now dates come in many different formats, so could we change it to one format? That seems like quite a simple task, but is it? Well, there's different versions of the month, like January and Jan dot and 1 and 01. So months can be represented quite a few different ways. Days we can have 1 or 01 or first with the use of st, and the year generally is 4 numbers or sometimes shortened to 2. So we've got a lot of variation there. Other differences in format, we could add the numbers together, or we could have a slash in between the day, month and year, or a dash, or even a dot. So there's slightly different ways we can separate the parts of a date, and also sometimes the date is written in reverse order with the year, month or day, or the American style if you like, which is the month, then the day, then the year, whereas in Europe, for example, we would have the day, month and year rather than the month, day and year. So that can be a bit confusing. So there are actually a large amount of ways that we can write a date. If you want to process text, you probably want to make it the same format. That's called normalization. So is that easy? Well, no, not really. Let's have a look some formats that I've taken from common popular websites. So I've looked for the top 10, and here's some websites: Wikipedia, Google, Facebook, YouTube, Yahoo, and dates from those sources. You can see mainly we've got the month written in its long form, and we've got the day either after the month or before the month. And the last few lines we've got a shortened version of the month. So instead of February we've got Feb, and instead of March we've got MAR. So there's not that much range there, but what happens if we try to put all of them into the same format? Got all those dates and put them in a text file, so we're going to open that file and put them all into one string. What we're going to do, we're going to pass that string to a function. And we'll start off with, we're going to swap the months. So we're going to make the smaller month format into the longer one. So we're just going to create a couple of lists, one called months and one short months, S months. And we're going to go through a for loop from 1 to 12, and the pattern is going to be the shorter version followed by not a normal letter. We don't want to take like the JAN in January and change it to January. We want to make sure the 3 letters are a shortened version. So that's the pattern, and then we're going to change that to its longer version. So we do that with re.sub, and then we can have a look at our text. So here's the code that we open the file, get the text, we call the function, and then we're going to print it. So if we have a look, that's changed the 3 shortened versions of the month into the longer version, seen here in the red text. So now all of our text has the month form in a longer version. I've got an example here of September the 4th, 1998, the format we've seen in the text. And I've written a pattern and also an re.sub expression. So it's quite complicated. So let's just take those two parts separate those two parts and have a look at them. So the pattern, we've got the month, which in this case is just September. We've got a space. Then we've got the days, which is either 1 or 2 digits, followed by a comma, then a space, and the year is just 4 digits. So that's the pattern. Notice we've used the R flag, and also we've used the bracket, so that's very important. So that's the pattern we're going to find. When you extract a date, you want to extract that information. So if it's September, you want to extract September. If it's the 10th or the 20th, you want to keep the date. Now how do we do that in re.sub? We can do that by using these numbers with this slash. So we've got the pattern, and instead of inside the brackets, I've just written a 1 and a 2 and a 3 in red. And what in those places we've got a month, the days and the year, and the brackets will extract them. Now in the re.sub I changed the order, so the second item is first, which is days, then the first item, which is month, and then the third item, which is year. So 2, 1, 3 changes the order of 1, 2, 3 that was in the pattern. So we could change, if you like, an American style of month day to day month, or even vice versa. So here we can see the text, the code again. We've got the date, we match September, then the 4, then the 1998, and in the re.sub regular expression we change it to the day, the month, and then the year. So that's quite complicated, but it does work in the example. So if we go back to our code, we do the swap months, and when I first tried it, it didn't work. And you may think, well, how can it not work? The example that I took from the text was identical from our text in the document, but for some reason it didn't work. Now, a possible reason could be that instead of having a single space, it could have been a tab, which isn't the same as a single space. So in the pattern, I exchanged the space for /s star, meaning match more than one S if it's there. Now that worked. So the brackets /d plus is still going to take out the days, and then we're going to change the order from month day to day month. So if we return that text from that for loop, we can see that that's matched a lot of the dates, and also we can see in the new pattern I've used the dashes and the number which in the for loop, the iterator from the for loop, which is 1, 2, 3 up to 12. So instead of having the month name, the long word, we've changed it to the number version, and we've taken the day, month and year, and now they're separated by this dash. So you can see now that most of the dates are in the same format. So the only two left are where we have day, month, year, which is very similar to what we did in the previous code. So now we just change the order, so we've got day /s star and then month, and then we have the /1, then the string of M. Remember, we have the month number, but we have to change it to a string, and we've got the dashes in between as well. So when we change those two, you can see those two are in red now, that all of the dates have the day dash month dash year. So that's achieved our goal in this example. So just quickly we can have a look that before we had these month day or day month or shortened month day and then the year, and now after we've got the form in numbers where we've got the day, month and year separated by a dash. So that's just an example of how we can change some dates, not all dates but just some. Okay, now for the challenge. Not quite as difficult as dates, but let's see how you can get on with the challenge. So I'm going to give you a text, and you need to change the title of Miss, which is MISS, capital M, to Mrs. with a dot. So if you like, the unmarried Miss to the married Mrs. And this text you can just put in the variable myText and just change Miss to Mrs. Seems quite straightforward. So here's the text. I've highlighted the versions of Miss that needs to be changed. So they're all people's names. So we have Miss Walker, Miss Dalloway, both repeated in the text. Again, pause the video, try it yourself and see what answers you get, and then check your answer with the video. Come back and we'll go through the answer. Okay, now let's have a look at the answer, and we'll go through it in stages of what you might try. So the obvious thing would be to create the pattern Miss and the new pattern Mrs, and just use re.sub to change the first to the second. So let's have a look at our text. So I've highlighted the changes in red, and we've got Mrs, and it's correctly changed Mrs. Dalloway, Mrs. Walker from Miss. But wait a second, we've got Mrs. impossible instead of mission impossible, and hit and miss has been changed to hit and misses. So that's not correct. You have seen I've changed the text from the original and put in a couple of nasty exceptions to test you. Okay, so what's the first thing you can try? Well, mission impossible, the miss doesn't have a gap after it, doesn't have a space. So we could just add a space to the pattern and the new pattern and see what that does. Well, that correctly changes the mission impossible, so the mission impossible stays the same and we don't substitute that miss, which is good. So now we've only got the one problem. We've got the hit and miss is changed to hit and misses. So how could we change that? Well, the names have an uppercase letter following the miss, so we can look at our pattern and we've got miss, then a space, and then we've got the square brackets capital A to Z, so any letter that's in an uppercase will match in that pattern. So again, we look at our text, and has that worked? Well, it's good that hit and miss is hit and miss, which is what we're trying to do. But the problem is Mrs. Walker and Mrs. Galloway have now shortened names, so Mrs. Walker is Alka and Mrs. Galloway is Alloway. The first letter has disappeared. So how do we get that back? Well, we go back to using our brackets, and there's only one bracket, so /1 will find that what's the pattern that's matched in the brackets. So we're going to use the R flag and the /1 to put that first letter back in again. So that's how we do it in the regular expression. So if we look at our text now, it correctly has changed all the Miss Walkers and Miss Dalloways to Mrs. Walker and Mrs. Dalloway. So that's the final answer. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that video. If there's anything you're not sure about or anything you would like to ask, please ask. Any questions you would like, just put them in a comment and we'll try to answer them. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and then you can be kept up to date with any new videos we're going to bring out soon. Okay, thanks for watching and hope to see you again. Bye for now.